Hey there folks, it's Scott once again coming back to you with another movie review. It's of the 2019 film Cold Pursuit, and just wanted to prove it. I got the ticket here that I saw it. Saw it on the same week that I saw The Prodigy. I saw it on a Saturday. Saw it at the early bird showing, didn't have to pay too much. I only paid like $8.12. If I had gone much later, it would have been 11 and change, so yeah. Got a better discount on that, so. Anywho, overall, I'd say the film was pretty decent. There were some interesting bits of humor, but I felt like at times they were kind of dragged on, and at times it wasn't really that funny, to be honest. I felt like some of the characters, like particularly Laura Dern's character, didn't really serve much of a purpose in the story, and I'll get to that eventually. And, what else? Liam Neeson does some things, but like in the later part of the film, he doesn't do as much. So, yeah. I didn't hate the film. It was a fairly decent film. I say I enjoyed it as much as probably The Prodigy. And speaking of Liam Neeson, I'm guessing the reason why it hasn't done that great is apparently there's some comments that Liam Neeson made about wanting to beat up an African American guy because of what he felt back then. Because apparently his friend was attacked by one, and he said he would give any reason if someone would push him if it was black, and he would knock their fucking skull off or something like that. But apparently, he later regretted that decision, and he admitted it wasn't the proper way to think, and apparently he got attacked for that, and he basically didn't do anything wrong. So I think that was extremely harsh of probably the people, more than likely SJWs and NPCs, attacking him, and that's fucking bullshit. He doesn't deserve that. He's not perfect, but as we grow up, we kind of learn lessons in life, and we eventually become better people if we really want to be. So yeah, so I just wanted to throw that out there and address that. So. But if the SJWs and NPCs have a problem, you'll face my alter ego for sure, folks. Just kidding. Well, not really. But anyways, I'll get to the movie review. Basically, Neeson plays this Nelson Nels Coxman, who's like a snowplower driver and kind of a glitzy Colorado ski resort in Kehoe. He has a fairly good, what we assume is a pretty good life. He's married to Laura Dern's character. And he's actually been awarded, Citizen of the Year. And that's got to be great, but unfortunately, it's cut really short and comes to a screeching halt when when they both learn his son Kyle Coxman has died of a apparent heroin overdose. But we see in the opening that's not the case. Apparently, he's like mugged and kidnapped by these probably more likely drug cartels. They actually kidnap another guy, but that guy actually escapes. But unfortunately, his son doesn't. And unfortunately, this causes pretty much a rift between Neeson's character and Laura Dern's character, basically Coxman and his wife, to a point where his wife really believes that his son, did die of a drug overdose, but Coxman doesn't really think so because he was not a junkie. But his wife thinks differently. Unfortunately, there's even more of a wedge whenever Coxman's wife, attempts to talk about. Kyle having a Facebook and trying to have a bit more of a life, because apparently they live kind of somewhere near, I guess, the mountains, and they're kind of secluded from the city and whatnot, because it's a pretty small town. And Neeson apparently says they really never talked about it, having much of a life. Whenever they would go hunting, they would just talk about hunting, and apparently I guess this upsets Laura Dern's character, and eventually she actually leaves him. So like I said, she really doesn't do a whole lot, and that's kind of the disappointing part, but I'll kind of get to that. And later on, Neeson's character thinks about committing suicide. He's about to shoot himself. But apparently one of the people that escaped earlier, I guess he knew his father somehow, and he ends up at where Coxman works, tells him about the people that kidnapped Kyle, and they probably are the ones responsible for murdering him. So eventually Neeson decides he's going to make a custom sniper rifle. He becomes a vigilante. He actually tracks at least 3 of the guys that had a hand in his son's death. Like, he kills the first guy pretty brutally, but unfortunately he has to drag the body kind of slowly, and it's just the way it's shot and the way it's executed. It's supposed to be coming off as a funny moment, which I guess it's okay. And then he wraps him in chicken wire and throws him into the river or something like that. And then after each death, apparently there's a title card that comes up, I think their name and what they represented, and kind of a small little drawing of I guess, of a graveyard or gravestone or whatnot. It's been a while since I've seen the film, but anyways. And basically, they all these guys worked for Trevor Viking Calcutt, who basically he suspects that it's really the Native American drug lord White Bull. Apparently, there's like kind of like a division, or I don't know if it's necessarily a war, but they try to avoid conflict. But since he thinks that, he orders pretty much his subordinates and associates to kidnap his White Bull's only son, and they kill him. But eventually, he comes to find out that it wasn't his son, and there's chaos that ensues. Like he actually starts killing the people off, like he thinks they're like helping the people that killed his associates and whatnot. Like he killed Coxman's. I think he's his older brother, but let me see. I don't know if he's older, but he's basically Coxman's brother. He was actually a former hitman for Viking's father, actually, and he at first tries to cover up and claims it was him, not Neeson's character, which he does eventually die. He even jokes about having cancer up the ass and he's going to die anyway. But of course they shoot him anyway, kill him. However, they didn't really show what happened, how they killed him. So because he's riding with a vehicle and he's basically daring and taunting Viking just to kill him. So kind of a nice little badass scenery. It's kind of good to see William Forsythe, though. I kind of wish they would have done more with this character, looking back. And then apparently the Neeson's character that hires like a hitman to maybe track down the people or kill them for him is apparently working for I forget what. Let me see if I can find the guy that played the guy that. Thorpe, was it Dexter? I think it's maybe Sly, but I'm not sure if it's him. He eventually gets killed because they believe that he was probably working for or knows too much of what's going on, so they end up killing him. But like I said, the Viking, what's his face? Trevor Viking eventually finds out that it wasn't, White Bull's son or any of the other people that were responsible. And so he actually ends up killing one of his associates and blames on him. He even has his head chopped off and taken to the White Bull as kind of a message and maybe a gift. But unfortunately, White Bull doesn't see it that way and actually kills the messenger. And eventually they decide they're going to do a kind of a blood debt. Exact revenge on like a son for a son, pretty much. But unfortunately, before they can do anything, Coxman, for some reason, he decides he's going to kidnap Viking's son and take him with him. And even though he abducts him, he actually bonds with the boy, surprisingly enough, in kind of a funny way. He doesn't really do anything to him. In fact, he actually does stuff that apparently Coxman likes, like he's able to read and he has an interest in some of his skills and whatnot, and feeds him. And then when he's reading, and when Coxman's like reading to him, he basically says, you're not a very good kidnapper. So Neeson's like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. So basically, it's funny how White Bull's gang, they try to track down the son and whatever. They go to this hotel, but they end up, they have this moment with the gosh, what are those people called? They accuse this person that works there of racism, and they demand to have their rooms and whatever, and eventually they get their rooms in kind of a funny way. But eventually, they learn that Viking learns that Coxman kidnapped his son and whatever, and they arrive at Coxman's workplace, the ambush, which is unsuccessful, and he is captured. But apparently, at the same time, White Bull's gang arrives there eventually, and then with the intention of vengeance. But somehow there is a shootout ensued, and most of the gangsters are killed. And Viking tries to get away. He actually gets into one of the vehicles, but apparently Coxman drops like a fucking shorn tree in his car and is apparently shot by the chest by White Bull. And of course, Viking dies of his wounds. And then eventually, Viking is found Vikings eventually dies of his wounds, and eventually he's found by the police, and the person leading the investigation, I forgot to admit, is played by Emmy Rossum's character, Kimberly Dash, who suspects there's definitely something going on between the Vikings and the White Bull gang related stuff, and of course Coxman's son. And apparently Coxman leaves the property, in a snowplow to continue work, and apparently White Bull jumps in the cab, and even though there's kind of like a somewhat distrust each other, they eventually kind of ride in together, and he does his job, and they have a kind of fun little moment, having a conversation and whatnot. Then apparently the last remaining enforcer for White Bull's cartel, apparently, who was on this paragliding, they were White Bull's men were shown to be staying at the hotel, and one of them was paragliding. And apparently he went as far as he could, and apparently the last enforcer accidentally paraglides into the freaking snowplow, resulting in him being chopped off to bits, and that's how your film pretty much ends. So there you go. I didn't know how else to review this film, because as much as I thought it was a decent film, there was some good action sequences. For the most part, Liam Neeson getting his typical avenging his son, at least for the most part, getting to those three people that were responsible and having the hand. Those were cool. But of course, there was some interesting, funny moments, like I mentioned, how he has to drag the body slowly into the garage and whatnot. And then apparently, whenever he goes to see his son, he's on this kind of lab table. Apparently, it's not like a simple pull-away table like it was in the earlier days. And they have to have this mechanism where they have to it has to spring up, and it takes almost a minute. That's supposed to be the funny moment right there, I guess. Not. I wouldn't say bad, but it was kind of weird. But it was it kind of makes you chuckle a little bit. There's some levity to it. But apparently, the way it ended, I'm not really a fan of. So it's kind of weird. But I'll get to I'll start with the cons. Apparently, Laura Dern's character, she's not in there very much, and apparently there really was no point to her. She doesn't at all come back because, like I said, she leaves him, and she actually, in fact, leaves a piece of paper, but there's nothing on there. I guess she felt like she didn't feel compelled to write him something. I guess she could have said, "I don't know what to say, but I'm leaving you," and that's it. Just weird how she just leaves, and I don't know. So I felt like they really didn't do much with her character, so she felt kind of pointless. And I do like Laura Dern, but it was kind of like a throwaway, thankless role that she had no point in being. So, but anywho, I felt like in the middle it kind of drags in, because it's interesting how you see it from the gang's point of view, where they're trying to figure out what's going on, who's responsible. There's certain comedy elements, there's also this one of the security guards has a gay relationship and whatever. They're trying to keep it secret, and and Viking has a tense confrontation with his ex-wife, apparently, who is actually part Native American. Her name is Julia Jones, very good-looking woman. And they have some tense conversations. Well, sometimes it comes out kind of funny, which I thought was interesting. But I just felt like it felt uneven. The humor, sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. And how should I put this? What else was something was off? I felt like I said, Neeson didn't do a whole lot except when he was ambushed by the Vikings, and there was that, and then the shootout with him and White Bull, and Neeson doing one cool thing really, he got in this truck and dumped the tree right in the car, and that made Viking stuck, and of course White Bull shooting him, which I guess is fine in a way because he got to avenge his son too as well. So I guess it's kind of somewhat of a fitting end, but it just is kind of weird. And plus the ending, the way it ended, just having one of the White Bull's last enforcers paragliding into the fucking snowplow and chopped to bits. I thought that was weird. It was, I guess, somewhat funny, but I think it could have ended better than that, I guess. Just have him drive off, and I think that would have been a good end. Not have a paraglider slide in and just die, like, uneventfully like that, so yeah. But I guess I'll get to the pros. I guess most of the performers do good, especially Liam Neeson. He's still in his 60s, still kicking ass. I like how he takes out those 3 drug enforcers, and he does a solid job. I just wish he would have done a little more in the last half, because he didn't really do a whole lot, except, kidnap the Viking's son, really. And, actually be not really a kidnapper, but be almost like a father, like having another son that he never really got to have, I guess, so, because that was their only son that died, so. And some of the humor, it worked here and there, and I was glad to see William Forsythe in the film, because he does a solid job on his character. I just wish they would have given him more to do, and he's not in the film a whole lot, so, but he does fine performance-wise. Just like that's another con. Just they didn't give William Forsythe much to do, and I felt like some of the character motivations were kind of questionable at best. But yeah. And I thought the action sequences when they were there, they were effective. Especially I liked how Liam Neeson's character got in the truck and dropped the whole fucking tree trunk into Viking's car, and then of course he gets shot by White Bull himself. And overall, I think it's a somewhat decent film. I wouldn't say it's perfect. It definitely has its flaws, but if it's still playing, I'd say give it a watch. Oh yeah, I like Emmy Rossum. I guess she's okay, but I felt like her character didn't really go much either. Didn't really take her character anywhere either. I feel like she had maybe 1 or 2 moments, like whenever she's trying to get information, she kind of uses her ex-boyfriend to, supply her with the information, which is kind of, the cool, funny moments. I really like her in Shameless. If you haven't seen that show, check it out. She's really great in that show. But I felt like they could have done more with her character looking back, and it was kind of, it was a meh role for her. But, this is supposed to be a black comedy pretty much. So, for the action, it's very effective, but I felt like they could have done more with it. So it's a bit kind of uneven, but Liam Neeson is effective when he wants to be. So yeah. But like I said, give it a watch in the theaters, but make sure it's at a cheap price. So yeah, I'll somewhat recommend this movie, but it's definitely not one of the best films I saw. In fact, I'll be doing a review of Alita. That's the film that I really enjoyed the most, and I'm definitely going to see it again. I might see it in IMAX 3D if it stays in the theater this weekend. If not, maybe I'll see it again today. So we'll see on that. All right. Anywho, I think it's going to do it for me. Overall, solid film. Would recommend it, but only see it once in the theater. So yeah. If you like what I reviewed, go ahead and click the like button and feel free to subscribe, and I'll do my best to deliver more content to you. So there you go. All right, folks, I'll see you later. Later.